Okay, today we are going to be talking about asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is when one organism splits off and makes exact copies of itself. So let's go further detail. So it's a form of reproduction when one organism produces offspring that are genetically identical to the parent, making exact copies and copies and copies and copies. Just like SpongeBob here, he kept making a copy of himself all around him, making little tiny SpongeBobs popping up on all sorts of sides of his head. So asexual makes a copy. It begins with one organism, as you can see in the top right. Okay, it starts out with one cell, one parent cell, and then the nucleus divides. This is step two. Nucleus is in control, so it's copying all the chromosomes and everything inside the nucleus. And then step three is the cytoplasm divides. That's the gel-like substance. And then at the very end, we have two daughter cells. We finish with two genetically identical organisms. So starting with one organism, ending with two genetically identical organisms. Th- Write this part down. This has to do with your hair, your skin, your nails, these parts of your cell. So when you cut your hair, you're going to grow more back because of asexual reproduction. When you cut your nails, you're going to grow more back because of asexual reproduction. If you cut your skin on a paper cut, you're going to need more cells to replace that cut. This is all due to asexual reproduction. The cells go through a cell cycle. This is the process of cell division where one body cell divides into two genetically identical body cells. So it starts out as one, and as it develops, things are dividing and pulling apart, and then eventually we will have one, two exact copies. We call this process, this cell cycle for asexual reproduction, mitosis. Mitosis is when the nucleus divides into two new nuclei. One copy of the DNA is then put into each of the daughter cells. An example of asexual reproduction is strawberries. This is a very good example because the organisms, this is a great example of organisms that go through this because it is just a simple, everyday object that we eat weekly basis, hopefully. They're delicious, they're juicy, they make exact copies of themselves. Our second example of an organism that goes through asexual reproduction is bacteria. You can see here, we call this type of asexual reproduction binary fission. Okay, so when bacteria is dividing, making exact copies of itself, as in this GIF, it is going to be called binary fission. This is still asexual reproduction. Our third example of organisms that go through asexual reproduction is the Hydra. Hydra is a plant, an underwater plant, that it will grow this bud, and this bud will grow and grow and grow, eventually may be an exact copy of the parent cell. Now, eventually, this will break off, and then it will plant itself somewhere else, and then it will keep growing. Also, if you've heard of Hydra before, Hydra is in a couple different places. If you watch any Marvel TV shows, Agents of Shield, or if you saw Captain America: Winter Soldier, uh, the bad guys called themselves Hydra, and they were a Nazi regime, and that said that if you cut off one head, another one will grow back. Okay, two more will grow back. So same principle here. If you cut off a piece of the Hydra bud, more will grow back from that cut. Also, from like Percy Jackson or any Greek mythology, a Hydra is something where if you cut off the head, two more will grow back. So it's a common fictional term, but it's actually based off of this plant. No, not this exact plant, but this drawing of a Hydra. It is a real plant. So there are advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Right now, let's go over the advantages of asexual reproduction. Only one parent is needed. No mating is required. They don't have to go out there and find a mate in order to reproduce and carry their offspring off into the next generation. So it's easy because there's only one parent. It's also easy because the reproduction is fast. Again, you don't need to go out and find another mate. You don't have to impress anybody as like a peacock or as a butterfly or any other type of creature. You can just reproduce. And all another advantage is that it limits the spread of harmful traits throughout the species. This is because it's making exact copies. So if it's continuing to make an exact copy, it's not going to pass down the bad traits. It's only going to pass down the good traits. And then I have turbo here because reproduction is fast. So if you don't draw something like a car going fast, do it. And then I have this quote from whatever movie Zach Galifianakis is from in this one. I forget what movie this was. He said, "Dad, you were like a father to me because only one parent is needed." Okay, because the dad of a Hydra would be the dad and the son. They're genetically identical, so that's I don't know. There we go. Some more advantages of asexual reproduction. All organisms can be suited to the environment. Because if you keep making copies of the same exact plant over and over again, it's going to continue to survive in that same environment. Another advantage, it provides for genetic continuity, meaning everything's going to be the same in the species. Every single piece and part will be genetically identical. Now, there might be a, s- a shape difference here or there just because of the environment, but generally it's going to be the exact same copy. I have a picture of the stormtroopers here because the stormtroopers are clones of Boba Fett, Jango Fett. All right, so disadvantages of asexual reproduction. There's no variations throughout a species. Everything is the exact same, no variation. There's no combination of different traits in the offspring. Right here, I have a link to a video, and I'm going to have this in Polaris. I want you to make a comment of why you think I'm even showing you this video. What does this video have to do with asexual reproduction? So I'm going to have this same image. When you click on it, it will take you to a YouTube clip, and I want you to discuss it. So the last disadvantage I just listed here is that there's no combinations of the different traits. So there are exact copies. There's nothing going on that's going to be different. There's nothing that's going to be the same. I'm sorry. There will be everything's going to be the same, but then nothing's going to be different. No new combinations. I don't know why this wasn't working. All right, another disadvantage of asexual reproduction is that there's no new species created. It continues to make the same thing over and over again, like these mushrooms. It's going to continue making these mushrooms over and over again. Nothing new. It's not going to change. There's no diversity. The same exact mushroom. The shape might change a little bit, but it's still the same genetic information. But the problem about this is if the environment changes, the species will or may become extinct. So say these mushrooms like to be in the shade. Well, there's trees all around it. Well, if there's a storm or a forest fire or something and knocks down the trees or beavers or whatever reason, there's no more shade around these mushrooms. These mushrooms will then be gone because they cannot adapt to their environment. All right. And then there's going to be this image, another video clip in Polaris. I would like you to answer the prompts in both of these videos. So don't forget to do the video prompt after watching this video and also the video prompt when watching this video. Okay. All right. Go ahead and go to the next thing on Polaris.